Hey guys, how you doing? I think I'm recording. Oh, it's been a while since I've made any content for the channel. Haven't really felt like recording anything here lately. It's been reading a lot, but I kind of felt like messing around in the shop this morning, working on the truck a little bit. Got the header down there on the floor. Had to put a few dinks in it and grind that motor mount away to get clearance for that driver's side header to fit down in there. And now that I've got it where I think it's going to need to be to fit properly and with enough clearance all the way around it so it's not rubbing against anything, and I got to deal with shortening the tailpipe on that driver's side and removing 3 to 4 inches out of it further back on the pipe so that I can use that front section for the straight angle of it, and hopefully I can just squeeze that 4 inches that I need backwards without crowding the cross member. And so it's going to require 2 really precise cuts, which is going to require 88,000 times of measuring it. So make sure that I get it right, you know what I mean? So as long as I get I think my battery's dying, so I might make some more content and add to this after my battery charges back up. Alright, I'll talk to you guys in a little bit later. Hey everyone, I don't know if you can see me or not, but I just thought I'd catch up with you where I left off on Tuesday. I got a little bit of progress made on the exhaust and buttoning up underneath the truck. I got the drive shaft in it, carrier bearing, all the drive shaft, it's all finished up now. Speedometer cable's hooked up, shifter's hooked up, linkage. I need to change. I put a nail, all I could find was like a little bitty, I don't know, like a wall nail, and I know they're not made out of very strong metal, so that I could actuate my shifter to make sure that nothing was binding. And because I didn't have any cotter pins or any other type of clip pin to put in it, but now I do. I went to the auto parts store yesterday and got a bunch of parts and oddball things that I need, and I forgot fuel line. So I need to get about a 3-foot length of 3/8 inside diameter fuel line so that I can replumb the rubber portion of my fuel pump. And the headers are on. Starter's like 3 steps away from getting bolted up, but now with the header in place, I should have wired that starter before I ever put that header in place, and I should have routed all of that because that was my mistake. I should have taken care of that while I had the opportunity, while it was open, to wire it and route it correctly, but I wasn't sure where my header was going to land. That's why I left it. And well, I wish I would have addressed it initially like I wanted to. My first instinct was to address it and get it routed and mounted and installed correctly on that mini starter, and then worry about rerouting it if I needed to while installing the header. But I didn't. I procrastinated on that one and dropped the ball completely. Now I'm suffering the consequences of that failure of action. And now it's taking triple the actions to have to fight to get my hands in that tight, narrow little spot between the header and the block and those delicate connectors on the back of the starter solenoid. So it's pretty precarious at the moment. Transmission lines. I cut that one good AN fitting rubber stainless steel braided sleeve hose because that transmission came with AN fittings already in the case, and that one line was in the box, and I was like, alright man, it was kind of like a 2-for-1. I knew exactly what I was going to do with those pieces when I saw them, and it worked out pretty good, except I slid everything together too far. I need to back everything out 3 or 4 inches and give myself a little bit of play on my training lines, and then tighten my clamps back down again, and my training lines will be close to buttoning up and putting in their final location. Of course, everything on the top end is still needing to be done. Let's go for a walk. I'll show you some of the stuff I got over here. Get into this topic right here. I got a tee. I'm on a tee, and I'm going to come this side of it for one oil pressure gauge and that side of it for the other oil pressure gauge, and I'll put the other one, like the one in the cab, on a copper line so that I don't have any plastic underneath there whatsoever. And I got new clamps, radiator, heater, got some cotter keys and slip pins, and some more tiny hose clamps. Still got my distributor wires, fuel stabilizer. The gas that's in it has been in it now for probably a year and a half. Well, it quit in April, so April to April was a year. Coming up on a year and a half now, and that gas has been sitting in that tank, so it probably needs something to stabilize it. And this is the carb I'm going to be running on it. It's a 600 Demon vacuum secondary. Glad I got those off. Those were wore out and tired, and now this is what he looks like. Let's go for a walk. I don't know if you can see what I'm fighting with the starter right there, but got a ground strap I gotta get bolted up on the back of the block. I gotta address the starter solenoid wiring and routing of those cables. Now I've gotta move my temporary oil pressure gauge from that little nest where I have it there for priming the engine, and I'm gonna mount it over here next to this second temp gauge, and then run that copper wire from over there all the way over here, and tuck it back up underneath there and out of the way, and try to keep the oil pressure gauge lower in a lower elevation and a lower nest from its feed point. So because of gravity, if it's down here in a really low nest, once you fill that copper line up with oil and then tap right into the and bleed it while it's running at the back of your engine, you know there's no air in the line at that point because you bled it right at the back of the gauge while the engine was running. And once that line fills up with oil, the gravity will hold that line full of oil. And so every time you start your engine, there's no air in the line. It's got a solid stream of oil right from the engine, like you're plugged into it directly from that port. Because air compresses, you're getting a false oil pressure reading. So whenever I install my oil pressure gauges, I always like to put one down lower than the port that it's coming from, if that makes any sense. But anyway, that's why that one out here is going to be mounted down here in a really low elevation, lower than the height of that port at the back of the engine back there where that oil line, so that has to be in a constant downhill run so that the oil will never drain back into the engine. So that way every time you shut it off, it's shut off with a full line. So when you fire it back up, you got instant oil pressure. As soon as you crank the key, you can see the needle jumping. And that's the way an oil pressure gauge is supposed to work. If you got one that's just sitting there soft and it's not really moving until you rev the engine up, that's because the line is full of oil and air. I'm going to clarify that. It's full of air, and those air bubbles in the line, of course, they compress when you rev the engine up and you increase the oil pressure. It takes forever for your gauge to respond, and that's why. And it's a quick, simple, easy fix for people that didn't know that trick. Well, now you do. And so still pretty much the same as it was up top here, but I did manage to get the driver's side header in, bolted up and ready to go. I had to do some major grind work on that motor mount. I don't know if you can see it. Yeah, I got in there with the grinder and just whittled away at it. Hour and a half out here with that grinding wheel, just grinding away at the backside of the motor mount like a hillbilly. Tell you what, man, poor people have poor ways. We make things work though, so there's plenty of clearance around the top of that K-member mounting point. And the backside of that header, I dinked it a couple of times there. I don't know if you can see it in the video, but moving on. We got that guy done, and what I was telling you about was that perfect was a chore. It was a chore, but made it. Give you a look here. This is what it ended up like right here at the cross, up and over the cross member. And there's the new connector. Both measurements turned out spot on. And it goes up and over and drops down, bam, right into the reducer, right into the collector, and 4 pipes going up. Bada bing, bada bang, Bob's your uncle. And transmission and drive shaft is in. If I can get my camera up in there, show you that linkage. Got a nail in it. It's funny. You see that nail? I got to get that nail out of there and put a cotter pin in it, or some kind of slip pin or something. Drive shaft's in. Everything's ready to go. Got my hangers on my exhaust back on. Yep. Everything's ready, bolted up tight. Still sitting here dry. I haven't put any fluids in it yet, but that's where I'm working at over there for the moment. And just got finished with those transmission lines hanging down there. I need to shorten them up just a bit and give myself a little more play. But my clamps, my connectors are up there at the halfway point. So that'll be something I gotta pull back down where I can reach it and pull it back apart. Stretch it back 2 or 3 inches and relax the lines a little bit. And then clamp everything back down. And that should give me the play I need up top when it goes time to hook it up to the side of the radiator. Alright. I didn't have any frozen brakes. A lot of rust on the rotors. Take a look at them X's in the sky. Pop up rain showers on me. These right here, boy, they're tall. You can see that they're 275, 60, 50. Brand spanking new. Got those from Rick Weimer in California, Missouri. Shout out to Rick. Thank you for that awesome deal on those wheels and tires. I put my center caps on it. Got a new set of red valve stem covers for it because, I don't know, red, silver, and black. It's kind of a cool combo. Kind of the whole theme of the truck, so why not carry the theme over into the wheel package as well. And yeah, put a little turtle wax on the old red last night and gave it a scrub a dub. Silver is dirty as always. I want it to just go ahead and fade out and patina, but I keep that red waxed up just for the oddity of it. For as much rough around the edges as it has diamonds in the rough going on in other places. And next goal is to get it licensed and legal, and then maybe later on down the road get it so that I can swap that rear end out for a Mosier unit with disc brakes already set up on it and 356s in it. Posi, a good Mosier Posi unit with 356 gears in it, and set it on top of the springs when I go back with it, so that way I want to lower it down by 4 inches in the back just by putting the axle on top of the leaf springs, putting a C notch in it, and re-articulating everything in the driveline with that accommodation of doing a axle flip on it, and get a set of 2-inch drop spindles and my Caltech upper and lower control arm front suspension for it. Willwood brakes, you know, something set up with disc brakes, good set. I don't, you know how I am. I probably find the cheapest junk I could find and make it look good and replace the parts that look like they need to be replaced, and use the good parts and replace the worn out shit and go with that. And that's where I generally have the best luck, is buying everybody else's junk and rebuilding their junk and turning it back into something even better than what they had to begin with for half the price or cheaper than going and buying a brand new piece. And yeah, you learn how to do things out of necessity that way, and each new skill you teach yourself is helping you to learn the next skill that you're about to teach yourself. And when you learn how to learn, and you learn how to teach yourself how to learn, your life changes for the better, because you're not having to ask anybody else to do it for you. You're doing it yourself. And the trick to doing those things is getting it done while you're young and able-bodied, and not having anybody else doing it for you. And just because you're able-bodied and able to do it, do for yourself and your family first, and everybody outside of that, their story is their story, and your story is your story. And like the Bible says, let your yeas be yea, and let your nays be nay. And always be kind. Always remember to be kind. That's probably the most important thing. Yep. Alright, well, I'm going to put some more footage together and a few pictures of the progress over the last few days or so, and try to turn all of this into a decent video for you guys. And I enjoyed your company, and thanks for watching. Later. Kicker out.